$1 million a year from sports betting. Now, before you click off, I'm not selling you some fantasy. I'm not about to show you a Lamborghini and tell you to join my Discord. But what I am going to do is break down the actual real math behind what it takes to make $1 million a year betting on sports. The bankroll that you'll need, the win rate that you're going to need, the volume, the discipline, and honestly, by the end of this video, some of you are going to realize it's more achievable than you thought. And some of you are going to realize you're not even close to ready. Either way, you'll learn the truth. And in this industry, that's rare. So let's go ahead and get into it. Before we build this up, let me tear something down. The internet is full of people who will tell you they turned $500 into $1 million overnight. 10-leg parlays, lock of the century, trust me bro, those type of picks. And look, some of them might have actually hit a big parlay once, which is pretty cool, but that's not a strategy. That's a lottery ticket. Making $1 million a year from sports betting is not about one big hit. It's not about going viral with a screenshot. It's about math. It's about process. It's about doing the same disciplined thing over and over and over again for 12 months. It's boring, it's tedious, and that's exactly why most people will never do it. Now, here's where this video is going to be a different thing from any other video that you have seen on how to make $1 million. I'm not going to tell you to bet underdogs and pray. I'm going to show you a model built around betting heavy favorites, like minus 300 lines, and winning at an 85% clip. That might sound crazy right now, but by the time I'm done with the math that I'm going to show you, it's going to make a lot of sense. So let's go ahead and get into the numbers. Now let's build this from the ground up. To make $1 million in a year, we need to work backwards from that number. And to do that, we need to understand three things: the odds we're betting, our win rate that are at those odds, and the volume of bets that we are placing. Most people hear minus 300 and immediately think, why would I risk 300 to win $100? That's terrible, and I get it. On the surface, it looks like bad value. But here's what those people are missing. At minus 300, you're betting on outcomes that are supposed to happen roughly 75% of the time. That's where the implied probability sits. But, and this is key, so write this down. If you have a method that identifies minus 300 lines that actually win 85% of the time, you don't have a bad bet. You have a 10% edge over the market. And that's enormous. So implied probability at minus 300 is 75%. Think of this, our actual win rate being at 85% gives us what? That 10% edge. Now let me say that again. The sportsbook is pricing these bets as if they win 75% of the time. We're winning them at 85% of the time. That's a 10% gap. And that 10% gap is where all the money is made. The Linemaker method is built around finding these specific situations. Heavy favorites where the book has underpriced and the actual probability of that outcome is way higher. Now let's break down what happens on each bet at minus 300 odds. For every unit that you risk, you win 1/3 of a unit. So if you're risking $300, your profit on a win is $100. On a loss, you lose $300. At an 85% win rate, here's what 100 bets looks like. So 85 wins times 0.33 profit equals 28.33 units won. Now take your 15 losses and times that by 1.00, which is going to be 15 units that you have lost. Now your net profit per 100 bets is plus 13.33. Now your profit per bet is 0.13. So that is a 13.3 return on each bet that you have made. So for every single bet that you place, your expected return is about 13 cents on a dollar. Now that might not sound like a lot on one bet, but watch what happens when you add volume to it. Now, how many bets are we placing per year? With the Linemaker method focused on heavy favorites across the NFL, the NBA, MLB, NHL, college sports, MMA, all that stuff, you're looking at 5 to 10 qualified plays per day during peak season. Let's use a conservative average and let's just say 8 bets per day across the full calendar year. Some days you'll have 12 plays, some days you'll have 3, it averages out, okay? 8 bets a day times 365 days. That's roughly about 3,000 bets per year. Now here's where it all clicks. Watch these numbers, okay? So bets per year, 3,000. Write these down if you need to. Profit per bet, 0.133 units. Your annual profit would be 3,000 times your 0.133, which equals 400 units. Now your target annual income there is $1 million, right? So what's the required unit size? How we get that is we take $1 million, we'll divide that by 400, which gives us $2,500 per unit. That's the unit size you need to bet to be able to make $1 million a year. Now the reason why this is possible in new age betting is because of some of the sports books and the peer-to-peer networks that you're going to have to be able to take advantage of, that's actually going to make it where this becomes an actual reality where it never has been able to be, obtained before because of sports books banning you and all that stuff. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But to make $1 million a year at minus 300 odds on average with an 85% win rate and 3,000 bets, your unit size needs to be 2,500. That means on each bet, you're risking around 2,500 to win about 833. Now, this is on average. I'm not saying every bet needs to be minus 300, but on the average for the entire year, your average odds should be around minus 300. Now, let's get to the critical question here. What bankroll do you actually need to support a $2,500 unit bet size? In professional sports betting, your unit size should be between 1 and 3% of your total bankroll. In some cases, you could stretch it to 5%. But we'll get into that a little bit later when you can actually stretch that. And I actually made a whole video on when you can stretch to a 5% bet. But again, 1 to 3% is your norm of where you should be at. Now that's not a suggestion. That's survival. Even at 85%, you're still losing 15 out of every 100 bets. And because you're betting minus 300, every loss hurts 3 times more than a win. So a bad 5-day stretch can put a real dent in your bankroll if you're oversized. Because I've been there, and trust me, that's not fun. So if your unit is $2,500 and you're using 2%, let's just say, for example, we're going to use 2%, your bankroll needs to be at least $125,000. Now that is your entry point for $1 million a year. Now I know what you're thinking. Frank, I don't have $125,000 just sitting around. Most people don't, and I get it. And here's the thing about this model, though, that I love. The math scales perfectly in both directions. Let me show you. A $5,000 bankroll with the same method, same discipline, same 85% win rate, that's $40,000 a year. That's a real income. A $25,000 bankroll, you're making $200,000 a year. And at a $50,000, you're pulling in about $400,000. Now the method doesn't change. The math doesn't change. The discipline doesn't change. The only variable is the size of your bankroll. That's why I'm so obsessive about bankroll management, because your bankroll is your business. You have to grow it, and everything else grows with it. Now let me address the elephant in the room, because I know a lot of people are thinking this. Betting minus 300 favorites, that's what suckers do. The value is in underdogs. I hear this all the time from everybody, and I get where it comes from. The traditional sports betting wisdom says you should bet underdogs because the payout is bigger. And yeah, when an underdog hits, it feels amazing. But let me ask you something. Would you rather win $300 once or win $100 8.5 times out of 10? The math doesn't care about how it feels. The math cares about expected value. And when you can identify minus 300 lines that should be priced actually at minus 500 or minus 600, meaning the favorite is even more likely to win than the odds suggest, you have a massive edge. The sportsbook is giving you a price for a 75% probability event that actually happens 85% of the time. That's free money. It just comes in smaller bites. And here's the part nobody talks about, the consistency. When you're hitting 85%, your bankroll doesn't go on these wild roller coasters. You're not winning big one day and then losing everything the next day. You're grinding up day after day with occasional losses mixed in. Now, it's not sexy, but it's sustainable. And sustainable is what gets you to $1 million. The Linemaker method is specifically built to identify these situations. Favorites that are underpriced. Not every minus 300 line is a good bet. Most of them aren't. But the ones that qualify under our system, they hit at 85%. And that's where the entire model lives. So now you've seen the math. But math on a screen doesn't pay your bills. Let me break down the 5 things you actually need to make this work in the real world. Let's start with number 1. You need a system for finding the right favorites. Not just any minus 300 line. Most minus 300 lines are priced correctly, meaning there's no edge there. The sportsbooks are good at their jobs, so they're not going to risk that. You need a method that filters through hundreds of lines every day and identifies the specific ones where the true probability is significantly higher than what the odds imply. And that's what the Linemaker method does. It's not guessing. It's not, this team is really good, so let's go bet on them. It's a systematic, data-driven framework for identifying when the market has it wrong on a heavy favorite. Without a system like this, you're just betting chalk and hoping, oh, well, hopefully I win 85% of the time. Now let's get to number 2, bankroll discipline. And I need to be especially clear about this with the minus 300 model because the risk is asymmetric. Every loss costs you 3 times what a win pays. That means a bad 3-day run where you lose 5 or 6 bets can wipe out 2 weeks of profit. At 2% unit sizing, for example, your bankroll can absorb those hits, but at 5%, one bad week, and you're going to be in some real trouble. So that's why I said 5%, we have to address that a little bit later on how you can actually get that. Now, I've seen guys who were crushing it at 85% blow up their entire bankroll because they got cocky and started betting 10% per unit. The math turns on you fast when you're laying minus 300. The rule is simple and non-negotiable. 2% of your current bankroll recalculated regularly. Bankroll goes up, your unit size go up proportionally. Bankroll takes a hit, you scale down. No ego, no exceptions. Now let's get to number 3, volume and line shopping. Now our model needs 3,000 bets per year, which means you need to have access to games across multiple sports, multiple leagues, and multiple sports books. Why multiple books? Because one book might have a team at minus 300 or a player prop at minus 300, while another has them at minus 280. That difference matters at minus 280. You're winning 100 on a 280 risk instead of 300. Over 3,000 bets, line shopping at this level can add tens of thousands of dollars to your bottom line. And beyond the price, you need multiple books because sports books will limit you. And like I said, now in the new age, we can actually have an opportunity to be able to do this with peer-to-peer networks like Polymarket and Kalshi and Novig. Before, this really wasn't a possibility unless you had thousands of different accounts to be able to do this. Because when you're winning at 85% on favorites, the books notice. They'll cut your winnings way down and you will be limited and you will get banned. They'll restrict your account. Having 4, 5, 6 books means you can spread at least your action and stay in the game longer. But in the new age, you can literally just have the peer-to-peer networks now, and you'll actually be able to put these types of bets down at a larger unit size and not get banned. Because in peer-to-peer networks, there is no banning, there is no limiting, because you are just going against other sports bettors. Now let's get to number 4, emotional control. And with this model, specifically, the emotional challenge is unique. You're going to win most of your bets, 85 out of 100. That sounds great, right? But here's the trap. When you're winning 8, 9, 10 bets in a row, your brain starts telling you to increase the units because you think, oh, I'm on fire, I can't lose, so let me bump it up. The voice is lying because the losses are coming. They always do. And when you're laying minus 300, one loss will erase 3 wins. 2 losses in a row are going to erase 6 wins. A bad day where you go 0-3, that just wiped out 9 wins. The $1 Million Bettor treats a 10-game winning streak the same as a 3-loss day. You log the results, you stick to the unit size, you show up tomorrow. The process is the product. The emotions are noise. This was the hardest thing for me to learn when I first started doing all of this. It took years, but once I got here, once I could genuinely sit in front of a screen, watch a minus 300 favorite lose in the final minute, close my laptop and go to sleep, that's when everything changed. Number 5, there's 2 kinds of time. First, the daily time commitment. Analyzing lines, running your system, checking multiple sports books, tracking every bet, reviewing results. During peak season, this takes about an hour to 2 hours a day, minimum. This is not a side hustle. Even though you think that with those hours it could be a side hustle, you have to put in the time and the work. And sometimes it might take a little bit longer than 1 or 2 hours. But at the $1 million level, you got to remind yourself, this is a business that you're doing. This is going to be a profession. And second, the time it takes to build the bankroll, unless you're starting with $125,000 in day 1, you need to be able to grow it. That takes years of consistent execution. I'll show you the growth path in a minute. But the point is, the people who make $1 million a year from sports betting didn't get there in 1 year. They got there by being disciplined for 5, 6, 7 years and letting the compound growth do the actual work. So what does the realistic path look like? Let's say you're starting with a $5,000 bankroll and you reinvest half your profits while withdrawing the other half to live on. Here's the year by year that I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you. Okay, year 1, got a bankroll of $5,000. All right, profit's going to be 40 grand. You're going to take $20,000 out for yourself and you reinvest your 20 grand and then you take it to the next step. If you're starting out with, let's just say $25,000, now your profit's 200 grand, you're going to withdraw 100,000, you're going to have $100,000 to be able to work with. And then year 3, we got a $125,000 bankroll, we make $1 million, we take out $500,000, and then we reinvest the 500 grand. We calculate that over here with what our starting bankroll was at because we didn't lose our bankroll. And now by year 3, we're at $625,000. So think about this. Year 1, you started out with $5,000. Year 3, you got $1 million. How crazy does that sound? It sounds crazy, but with the numbers and with the math and with the right formula, you will make this happen. Now, reading that again, starting with $5,000, year 1, you make $40,000 and you take $20,000 out to live on. And then you reinvest the $20K. Year 2, your bankroll is $25,000 and you're making $200,000. So what do? You withdraw $100K. And then year 3, you've hit the $1 million mark. By year 3, even while withdrawing half your profits, you've reached $1 million in annual income. And your bankroll is now $625,000, which means year 4 and beyond, you're making multiple millions of dollars. Now let's go ahead and discuss exactly how this works with your bankroll, your unit size, your profit, and the income that you could expect. So with breaking this down into certain types of bankrolls, $2,500 bankroll with your unit size at $50, profit-wise, you'll be able to make about $20,000. Your income there is about $1,667 per month. Now let's take a look at the $5,000 level. $5,000 level, $100 unit size, $40,000 in profit, making $3,333 per month. Now, as we go up here, we're going to go to $10,000 with a $200 unit size, $80,000 in profit, what you can make at this level, making over $6,500 per month. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the big boy. All right, the big boy unit sizes. That's what I like to say. All right, so big boy bankroll, big boy unit size, $25,000 for your bankroll. Unit size, $500. You can make $200,000 a year. Some people do not make that at the job that they're at. Okay, just realize that. Off sports betting, you could literally make $16,667 per month. Now let's jump into the crazy numbers here. $50,000 bankroll, betting $1,000 per game. You can make $400,000 a year at over $33,000 a month. Now the reason why this works is compound interest. Okay, when you're using compound interest each and every month with your bankroll, this is how you accelerate this to new heights where you could actually reach literally almost $500,000 in a year. Now let's get to the level where you're making this type of money. What do? You sit back and you can just relax and enjoy life, right? $100,000 bankroll, you got $2,000 unit sizes, $800,000 is what you can make in a year, okay? And in a month, come on now, over $66,000 in a month? Like, these are just crazy numbers when you really get up there. Now, to reach that magical $1 million, here's that $125,000 bankroll. Well, we'll be betting what? $2,500 a play and making $1 million a year. No, this isn't a joke, okay? And what are you going to make per month? $83,333. Crazy that this is the recipe. This is the blueprint of how you can take a small bankroll, accelerate it through the years, and you could eventually get to the level of making $1 million a year. Now, I need to give you the reality check on these numbers. This assumes you maintain an 85% win rate for 3,000 bets per year every year, okay? And that's hard. There will be stretches where you dip to 80%. There will be months where the model runs cold. Variance is real. The actual path will be bumpier than this. But the trajectory, the direction of travel, that's real. And it's a whole lot more realistic than, oh, I'm going to hit a 15-leg parlay. Now, one more thing, because I refuse to be the guy who sells you a dream without a disclaimer. This model works, the math is sound, but it requires 3 things that most people can't or won't do. One being learning a real system for finding mispriced favorites, not just betting every minus 300 on the board. This is where they get that mistaken. Do not just bet every minus 300 that you find. That's not value. Most of those will lose money. You need a method. Now, 2, the discipline to stick to 2% unit size for years while your friends are out there betting the rent on their parlays. Number 3, the patience to start small and let compound growth work. If you could do those 3 things, $1 million a year is not a fantasy. It's a math problem with a solution. And if you're sitting there thinking, I don't have 125K, this isn't for me, well, guess what? A $5,000 bankroll at this model makes $40,000 a year. A $10,000 bankroll makes $80,000 a year. You don't need to start at $1 million. You just need to start, period. Now, if you're still here, you're in the top 5% of the people who watch this video. Most people bounced in the first 2 minutes because I didn't show them a Lambo. But you stayed for the math, and that tells me that you're serious. So here's what I want you to do right now. First, if you don't have a tracking spreadsheet, you need to start one today. Not tomorrow, today. Track every bet, the odds, the units, the result, the running bankroll. If you don't measure it, you can't grow it. Number two, if you want to learn the Linemaker method, the exact system that I use to identify mispriced favorites and hit at 85%, click the link in the description. And number three, subscribe to this channel and hit that bell. I put out content every week designed to make you a sharper, more disciplined, more profitable bettor. Real data, real math, real results, not hype. And finally, drop a comment down below and tell me your current bankroll and your goal. Are you trying to hit 40K a year, 200K a year, or that $1 million mark? Because I read every single comment. $1 million a year betting on sports, the math says it's possible. The question is, are you willing to do the work? I'll see you guys in the next video.